Today, thank you. Today we have elections for our new officers. Next month I'll call the meeting to order. Then we'll have our own Will Mullaney swear our new officers in, and then they'll take over. So I'm thrilled to be here for my last meeting. We do not have a heavy agenda, but we do have a great speaker on the ERA today, so we'll give her as much time as we can. I see so many wonderful new faces. If you have joined us since last meeting, or you joined before and you haven't had a chance to stand up and be introduced as a new member, would you please do so now? Please stand up. Oh, look at Stay standing because we want to be able to get your name. We'll start with you.
Okay, I'm Pam Lewis.
And Pam, where did you come from?
I'm from Foxfire Village.
Okay, great. And are you a recent addition to the area, or
No, I lived here for 15 years.
But
I'm originally from Michigan.
But you found us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Lee. I live in Pinehurst, and I'm from Loudoun County, Virginia, which is a nice, strong Democratic county.
Yes. Well, we are small but mighty, so we're glad you're here.
Big friendly faces.
Thanks.
My name is Lori O'Loughlin, and I moved to Pinehurst last June from California, so I immediately started looking for people of like mind.
Yes. Well, we are so glad you're here. Thank you. Jan?
Jan Chapik. I moved here from Oregon, which was very Democratic. So it was nice to see this group here.
Great.
I live in Jackson Springs.
We're glad you're here.
I'm Rosa Riccio. I'm from Pinehurst. I've come to a few meetings, but I officially became a member now. And I came from New York, but that was a long time ago. I've been here in North Carolina for 42 years.
Well, we are glad you're here with us now.
Amy Richards, Saratoga Springs, New York, now number 6. Having finding the light in the room.
Yes. Thank you, new members. And we also have guests here today who are going to check us out, and hopefully they'll join us. So if you are a guest today, can you please stand up?
That's on the microphone.
Okay, stand up. You get to be introduced too. Okay, Lowell.
I'm Lowell Simon, and I am running for District 52 for the North Carolina House.
Thank you.
Lived here a year from New York City, and if you ask me if I was a member, I was sitting here to look for my card because I've been here before. I don't know.
Hi.
I'm a military spouse. Here and there, I promise, but lived in New York and
Well, we're glad you came. Well, we're glad you're here. Our guests. Thank you.
If I could, I want to introduce an old member, but this member hasn't been here for maybe a year. Maureen had a terrible accident. Maureen Windmeyer. So she's been away.
Yes.
So I haven't been here for almost a year because of the accident. So I don't know what happened.
Well, we're glad you're here, Maureen. Thanks. Nina, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Ellen. Come join us. As you may know, we have an honor system with our goodies in the back. We have coffee and some breakfast goodies. So just put a few pennies, dollars, hundreds of dollars, whatever you can afford in the jar, and we kind of just pay it forward that way. We clean the jar out, and then we go buy next month's goodies. We also collect school supplies and food for the food bank. And so when you come in, hello, Miss Ernestine. Hey, Elsie. And Ernestine back there in the very back is the person who collects our food, and it looks like she's got a whole bunch of food. And did I see Tina this morning? There's Tina, and Tina right there is our school supply person. Any announcements, Tina? Just that we're continuing to put those school supplies.
Initiatives going into the school year and at mid-year, and maybe another one like before spring break or after spring break. So,
We'll make a push.
Yeah, let's make a push for the end of the year.
Good, thank you. And Ernestine?
Okay, I was saying, you ladies are just too fantastic. But Lady Barnett, she gave a total of $25 just from last time as well. And that's 100 meals. Then there was an anonymous donation of $50, and that was 250 meals. And then Julie Krabs, she gave $50, and that was a 250 meals. And I think all you ladies need to give yourselves a standing ovation. 122 pounds of food is what you donate.
What I love about us Democrats is that we put our work where our mouth is. We don't just talk, we actually go out and do these things. So thanks to the women who take charge of doing that. I think there were a couple of announcements. Diane New had a quick announcement. Diane New.
Just a quick reminder that we have some merchandise that is like on a fire sale right now. We need to gear up for 2018 with new, fresh things. So please check out that there's some great little things there, t-shirts, all kinds of stuff that really help support our cause. And as we go into 2018 in this election cycle, we definitely need to look at gathering more money. So whatever you can do to help is really so great. We're so grateful for it. So check it out.
Thank you. And Helen Probst Mills. Helen, do you want to, I know you're right there beside Lowell, so you could put in a plug as well.
Hello everyone. Nice to see you. I'm running for the North Carolina State Senate against Tom McGinnis. Filed against Tom. And so there was some chatter in an online paper from one of the other counties that it's going to make him, she's stacking right and painting him as too liberal. So, George Little, who many of you know, has really is stumping for Senator McGinnis, so that may not go down well for George if it doesn't go well for Tom. Anyway, but I could use your help. I am a longtime member. Many of you know me. I'm also technologically disadvantaged, and have been for ages and probably will be until I die. My website is up and it looks great, but it doesn't do much, so thank God Bill is coming to my rescue. But if you many of you know how much we all owe Bill a debt, because he has made Moore County Women and Moore County Dems, all of our website stuff and emails and everything,
Absolutely.
much better. In the meantime, I'm going to do the old-fashioned sign-up way. If anyone would like to volunteer to be on the kitchen cabinet and throw their life in with mine, I I'd love to have you. I've got room. You can sleep over, no problem. Or if you'd just like to volunteer in an ad hoc basis for anything and everything, including technological help, I'm forever grateful. So I'll just pass this around. And thank you all, because the reality is it's not really me that's running. It's all of us that's running, and all of us who are trying to move so that we can get to a point that we can really speak for the people who haven't been represented up in Raleigh. So I'm not going to be able to do this without you, so thank you all deeply in advance. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And actually, this next announcement, I'll go ahead and let the chair of the party, my husband, Paul Dunham, talk about the precinct meetings, and maybe you can announce this one. Al Jean just passed this, and that's the one this afternoon. I think there's a couple today.
Okay. I'm supposed to read this. I got it. Thank you. A lot going on. We have 26 precincts so far. I've attended 6 precinct meetings, beginning on the 10th, and 2 last night. Great response. Everybody should have been at Whispering Pines. It was fabulous. How many people were there?
Over 60.
Over 60 people came to the precinct meeting. Fabulous. And we really appreciate everybody that comes out. A couple of them have only had 5, but they've only got 300 in their total precinct. Democrats, registered Democrats. And we're getting independents, unaffiliateds coming to the precinct meetings and contributing money to our cause. So we're really excited about what's going on. There's 2 more today. South Southern Pines and West Knollwood are meeting today. West Knollwood has not been organized for a number of years, so we're making progress in bringing people into the fold too. So it's really exciting to see all these faces at these meetings and hear people who are energized about being Democrats and willing to step forward and make a difference. We're going to be opening a headquarters. I'll just give my spiel in a hurry. We're not sure where or when yet, but it won't be very long, so we want to get going. We don't have any primary races yet within the Democratic side, but we may, who knows. More candidates may come forward. We still need candidates for all the 3 commissioner districts that are open, 1, 3, and 5, which is essentially the North County, Aberdeen, Pine Bluff area, and out towards Seven Lakes in that area. So if you know anybody that wants to run for office, or even doesn't want to run for office, but will run for office, put their name there, where people have a choice. And we've been getting a lot of great publicity in the pilot too. On Wednesday, there was an excellent editorial about the fact that the Democrats have candidates this year, and people have a choice, and how important that is. So we're really being noticed. Raleigh's noticing us. The Democratic Party in Raleigh's been contacting me and telling me how wonderful the people in Moore County are responding. Even the Republicans are noticing us. Yeah. I got an email of someone passed on, Maurice did. He passed on a Republican blog to me that says, after many years of being hapless and hopeless, the Moore County Democrats are starting to make waves. So, being seen. Thank you. I will get to this in a second. This afternoon we're having a meeting about our fundraiser for this year. We have one every 2 years, and we don't do a lot of asking in the interim like a lot of places do. It's always on our website, and Bill administers that for us, where you can go up there to Act Blue and donate. However, we don't put it on everything we send out. We're not always asking for $8 from your pocket every month or something. Not that we wouldn't like it, because it costs us a lot of money to maintain the party over the years, primarily when we have a headquarters, and that isn't every year, but in major election years we will fund the headquarters, and we'll be doing that this year. March, April, probably somewhere in there, we'll identify a spot and rent it and have it until after the election in November. And we want to support the school fund bond issues too, so that's something else we're going to be involved in with our headquarters and working with the people who are organizing and carrying that forward. Okay, May 19th, put that on your calendar. That will be our major fundraiser. And it's every 2 years. We had 2 years ago at the clubhouse in Pinehurst, filled up everything they had, so we're looking for different kinds of venues this year. But tentatively, May 19th. And we will need a lot of volunteers to help put that on, no matter where we hold it. We may not go back to Pinehurst because we overflowed the building last year. Good problem to have. So we're looking forward to another successful one, which will fund our headquarters and beyond. I'm rambling. Okay, dear South Southern Pines Precinct members, I'm a South Southern Pines Precinct member now, as is Darlene, and several of us are here today. Tina, Nina, Algene, a lot of us. This first organizational meeting of our precinct is scheduled for today, February 17th at 1 o'clock at the Douglas Center. Please, please come. We will elect any officers that are needed, appoint precinct committee members, delegates to the county convention, decide upon major precinct projects and dates, and discussion of major concerns about and ideas for precinct readiness for future elections. That's wonderful. Sincerely, Earl Jones and Cynthia McDonald, our chair and vice chair.
And I have more than I'd like to underline. I'm going to.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we got a nice little volunteer back there too. All right, any questions about that? The meeting is Monday night, the 19th, here, 7 o'clock. And Helen will be our speaker. Okay, anything, any questions?
That's the party meeting.
That's the party meeting, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Party meeting. Okay.
Right, thank you.
Why don't you
Pass it around. Good idea.
Thank you, Paul. I just want to point out that if you're saying, gee, my name tag looks a little different than her name tag or his name tag, what we're doing is Sandy has made these fantastic new name tags for the new year. So I guess once you pay your dues, then you swap your old name tag for a new name tag. So that's why some of them look like this. And some
So
of them,
if somebody next to you has an old name tag, you tell them they better pay up.
so that's the reason for that difference. And then
called shaming.
On to a more serious note, as you all know, we do a moment of silence during our meeting, and there was nothing to do except to acknowledge that we have once again had another school shooting. So I would like to have our moment of silence for our leaders to finally have the courage to do something about this country's insane obsession with handheld weapons of mass destruction. Prayers and condolences are getting to the point that it's almost, I cringe when I hear that. They either nobody's listening to these prayers or they're clearly not what we need, totally. So if we could take a moment and just send lots of good messages to our leaders to please step up, and our young children who are seeming to take the lead in this right now to keep strong voices to make some change to what's going on. Thank you. Lynn, you had some statistics that I think you wanted to share after that moment of silence. Thank you. Do you want to come? Sure.
So many of you may have heard or read online that one of Jimmy Kimmel's writers named Bess Kalb, K-A-L-B, if you want to Google this, posted on Twitter, her initial post said, God have mercy on your NRA kept souls. And then she listed the members of Congress who are the recipients of the most money from the NRA. Two of the top three are our very own. So Tom Tillis, who is up for re-election in 2020, has taken $4,418,012 from the NRA. And Richard Burr leads the pack, second only to John McCain, who is getting a pass because he's ill. Burr is up for re-election in 2020, but says that he's not planning to run, which means we may have an open Senate seat. And he has taken $6,986,620 from the NRA. Since her initial post, what she has done is every time a legislator, a member of Congress, tweets and says something about their broken hearts or their thoughts and prayers, she simply tweets how much money they've taken from the NRA.
Good for her.
Now, I went last night, just out of curiosity, to Tom Tillis's Twitter page and skimmed hundreds of comments looking for people who were saying that they were pro-gun. There was one out of hundreds. So our country is energized, and North Carolina is energized. And those of you who are young enough to tweet, you too can go to a Twitter page, and many people are simply going to Tom Tillis's Twitter page and re-entering $4,418,012 without saying anything else. So you can call with that number, you can email with that number. You know, we thought Newtown would do it. I'm a graduate of Virginia Tech and a retired elementary school principal. And, you know, if slaughtering 6-year-olds doesn't do it, we all sort of threw up our hands and said, I guess we're just done. I guess we just get to live like this. It sounds different to me this time. I don't know if it is, but I do know that 95% of Americans, which includes a lot of Republicans, support sensible restriction on guns and gun violence. So if you have an opportunity on your Facebook page or to go to Twitter or to pick up the phone in the next week and to call, and you can include Mr. Hudson, who is up for re-election this year. Yes. I know. But who, you know, he was on 60 Minutes last week. If you haven't seen that, you can also find that online. At any rate, the time is now. Thank you.
If you post that on Facebook, and I do, you know, I'm not afraid, but you will get some blowback, believe me. People who want guns are going to tell you many things about yourself that you never knew. So be prepared.
Yeah, there are things that are hot buttons for these trolls, and they just come out of the woodwork for this kind of thing, and we just kind of have to be prepared for it. But if you send a tweet to Tillis or Burr or Hudson, that you probably won't get a troll.
Sure you will.
But if you do, no, I mean to their offices, usually you won't get a response from maybe one of their staffers will troll you. But the point being that if this is happening in a red county like Moore, if this is the energy here, what's happening in places where there are many more of us I think that Lynn has a point. There's change in the air. And to that, my quote that is for this month, last month, Lynn had a great quote, and I got this one this month that says, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are the change that we seek." Barack Obama. Down to just some business here. Lynn, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Well, I don't get to make that motion.
Oh, that's right. Someone will.
I move that we approve.
Diane, thank you. A second. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. And Paula, I think you're giving treasurer's report today.
Yes, the treasury report, because Carrie's enjoying herself. Notice that she took today off when you got the most renewals. We started with a balance of $35.98. We received deposits from members of $1,811. Our bus, which was negotiated with a very good price, was $1,500. And our bottom line is we ended up with $3,803.65. And this is before today. And then also before today, our membership increased by 10, and that's with the caveat if everybody that's on our roster renews, so that we would have a new register of 185 people, and that's before all the new members came in today.
Wow.
Part of why that is important is you can ask these two candidates. In the 2016 elections, we gave money. We are a source for them to come with their hands out to candidates, and we support them. So the more money we raise, the more money we have to support our Democratic candidates in these races. Let's see, Sandy, do we have some communications?
I'm just going to point out as a segue from what Paula said, it wasn't that many years ago that we were meeting in the Homewood Suites where they could fit 60 people. And we didn't fill it up. We had to leave eventually because we were getting tight. So we've gone from fewer than 60 women to potentially closing in on 200, which is just so wonderful. So, and we're so glad to have those of you here. And the only thing else, because Carrie was smart enough to not be here in February, I've been taking your renewals, and we appreciate that. And so I'm just reminding you that in March, your membership is concluded, and we hope you'll be back on our rolls. So, just by the way, I'm going to try to come up with a solution whereby you can make a payment from your home by invoicing you. We will see if that happens. If you knew the hours I've spent trying to make this happen. For some people, this would be so easy. But anyway, it may yet happen. So that's, I think that's all I have.
I was talking to Gladys. She's 95 years old, and she was saying that she wanted to give them a membership, but she hadn't received anything. Gladys, I told her that I would mention this.
Well, and Wilma's not here today, but we have a special thing for Gladys.
That's what I thought.
Right, so don't tell her, don't worry about her membership dues. Yeah, no, we've got something special for our older members. We just have to talk to Wilma about getting it all finalized.
For those who don't know her, she was the president.
Wilma.
Yeah.
Gladys. Gladys was president at one time. Right. Many years ago. I don't know if she was a founder, but her age would certainly signify that she has been around enough to have any. Yeah. Thank you, Ernestine. And back to Paula. Is there anything on membership that you want to remind people? I don't think what we've discussed is what the dues are. So,
Yes,
and when they're finally, when they're due.
We really are trying to tighten up the roster so that everybody is up to date with their dues by next month. It's March. It's March to March is our membership drive. So
that's when that's when we have to report to Raleigh what our numbers for the year is. So it's important to us to make that number as big as we can.
yes. So we don't want to seem like we're being pesky about it, but we did have a lot of people walk in and try to pay today. So that was just one. We were overwhelmed for a minute.
We were.
Because we
I was.
Because we like to talk.
And how much?
$25.
So just to be clear, we want it by March what?
I think
The end of March.
by the 31st. Yeah. And just for those who are new, oh, I'm sorry. Is there a question?
I just have a quick idea. Could you possibly draft something with a cute logo from Bill and say, love to have you join me in the Democratic Women, and I can send it on to my dozen friends who aren't here? Because I'm sure we all have friends who talk about, oh, I should, but I haven't. And I think if you could give us the ability to send that personally to them, and with the explanation that we're looking for a really high number by the end of March, I bet we could draw up another 50 to 100 women.
I'll do it. That's a great idea. Thank you, Sandy. And Sandy, I want you to know, is doing this with a house that is completely torn up. So kudos to Sandy. And just a very quick explanation for people who don't know, we are part of a structure of Democratic Women nationally. So we are what's the sort of lowest common denominator. We are the local chapter. We're part of a region. We happen to have our own member here who is our region rep. She's going to be the speaker today. Then after the region, we're a state. All the regions join. We are a state organization, Democratic Women of North Carolina, and the Democratic Women of North Carolina are then part of a national group. So we're part of a long line of Democratic women stretching across the country, but it starts here at chapter level. So when Sandy says we have to send our money to Raleigh, we send a tiny portion of our dues up to support the state apparatus, state women's apparatus. Thank you. And correspondence, anything that we got or heard? Or okay, great. And then just very quickly, Paul kind of hit everything in terms of the fundraiser coming up and the meeting on Monday night at 7 o'clock here. The only thing I want to warn you about, we just heard about this. Next month, our meeting date is off one more time. The first 3 months of this year, the Village Hall had some issues. We changed because of the Women's March. A lot of things. Next month is our final change, and then we'll go back to the second Saturday of the month, which is our usual meeting time. Next month, on the third Saturday, it is St. Patty's Day, and the Village of Pinehurst has a parade. The good news is the parade starts at 11. We start earlier. But we're going to ask you for one meeting to come a half an hour earlier. Well, if you usually come at 9:30, come at 9 for the goodies, 9 to 9:30, and then we'll start the meeting at 9:30. Hopefully then, just as that parade's getting all lined up, we're out. Plus, we will have got the early morning parking spaces before the... So get here as close to 9 as possible, and then I think we should be covered. And Paul?
And if we could just remember that there are additional places to park. If they've already started blocking off the road, we can park right back here and then behind
the, is it police over?
Fire. Behind the firehouse. There's additional parking, so don't be waylaid if you see barriers, because we had this happen one other time.
Yes.
But it's going to help if we just come 30 minutes early.
Yes, so anyway, that's just for next month. You won't have to worry. Sandy will put this all in your email that you get, so you'll be reminded of this, but we want to have you have a heads up about that. The county convention, which is for the Democrats, is also going to be here. We do a lot in this Village Hall. And that is on March 24th, and you'll hear more about that on Monday night. The region, I kind of switched between the party and the women, the women's region, with Catherine as the head person, is having a regional meeting, so that our chapter is going to meet with Anson County chapter, Union County chapter, Hope County chapter. I think there's 8 of them or something. We'll all meet here, Village Hall, on April 14th. So that'll be a chance for us to kind of show off who we are, and that will be our only meeting in April. We won't have another meeting. There's something happening.
The dinner's that night too.
Well, and then there's what do they call it? The Unity Dinner. It used to be called the Jefferson Jackson Dinner. Unity Dinner for all Democrats in the state of North Carolina, and it's being held at Reynolds Coliseum. So that must mean that there's some big names coming, because there's no way to fill Reynolds Coliseum unless we got some heavy hitters showing up in North Carolina. Since we're a swing state, my guess is that they're going to be big. And that's the same night as our event. So our regional meeting will be in the morning, 10 to noon, 10 to 12, and then the Unity Dinner will be probably 6 o'clock that night in Raleigh at Reynolds. We have a new members brunch. Last year we had Judith Krall do the hosting for us. This year it's going to be our very own candidate, Helen Probst Mills. So we want to show up in huge numbers to show her both our support and our new members what a great organization we are. And we call it a new members brunch, but it isn't just for new members. All of us show up to say, hi, new members, we're glad you're part of us. So that will be on Saturday, May 12th. And the members bring food. So the old members bring food to the brunch. We just ask people like Judith and Helen just to give us a venue, and then we do everything. We bring the food, we put it out for our total membership, honor our new members, and then we clean up and leave. She won't know we're there. So new members brunch, Saturday, May 12th. And Sandy, what I might ask you is when you send that message, kind of list all of these perhaps upcoming events, so you and I can go over that.
Okay, great.
And Paul just announced that the precinct meetings are being held. They'll go through March 4th. If you don't know where your precinct is, go to moredems.org, and that's more the county, but it's also more Dems. .org, and moredems.org, and all the listing is there. And then you can also go to the North Carolina Board of State Elections, NCBOE.gov, and look where your precinct is. So if you don't know that you live in Pinehurst 1A or North Southern Pines, you can go on and find out. Then you can go to your precinct meeting. And then finally, Paul kind of alluded to this. We, for the first time, I think Lowell is running against Bowles, and I think Bowles has not had anybody in a decade or more. So we finally are giving these people a choice, our neighbors a choice, us a choice. And we still have some seats to fill, and the filing period is through February 28th at noon. So please, please, please think about some of these seats. There's even small jobs, but they pay. Clerk to the board, registrar, register of deeds, Board of Education, soil and water conservation. So if you have any interest, what we would love is to just give people a choice. And you can spend your time running while you're learning. Learning while you're running.
And it's not just to give them a choice, also it's to get everyone who's been in these positions for so long to have to defend their record. Because the reality is without anyone running against them, they never have to talk about what they've done. And we may not win, right, which is understandable because the numbers, and that's the way it is. But the fact that they would have to get up and articulate why they've taken the votes they've taken, what their reasons are, will make them better representatives, even if there's no Republicans for us than we currently have. So if I can do this, anyone else can do it.
And Helen, you make an excellent point, because then when you vote for that person, you can't come back later and say, well, I didn't know they had done that, because we're going to force them to run on their record. Helen's going to, and Lowell and Frank and our other candidates are going to push them to come out and say, yes, I did vote for that bill. Yes, I'm an HB2 supporter. And, you know, a lot of times people know that we passed HB2, but they don't know who the individual votes for that bill came from.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add and echo what Helen said. Having a candidate is a win in itself. Even if we don't have the numbers to beat them right now, we will. And we'll keep going until we beat them. And it keeps their money here. They can't send it off to somebody else running in another part of the state. We have choices. It really is a win-win situation for us and the people of the county.
And don't underestimate, especially women, nothing against you all or our men here, but if there was ever a year for Democratic women, this is the year. So if you ever thought that you wanted to put your toe in, there's some lower level seats here. It's a good way to get in. And even, as Helen points out, even if you don't make it, there's name recognition. There's a guy right now that I'm following in California. He's been running against Darrell Issa, and who's just terrible. He has run, this will be his third run, and now they're saying it looks like this is the year. So sometimes you just have to get your name out there, and people go, oh yeah, I've heard that name before. By the time it shows up the second or third time, they think you're, oh yeah, I've heard him, check it out, or Lowell.
I was just going to say that we can win, and I wouldn't, you know, only say that we want to hold people accountable, because clearly want to do that, but I think your race is very winnable, and I think mine's probably a coin toss. So I think they're very winnable. I think we can win.
Thank you.
Well, we're
That's
in
it.
to win it.
Yeah, we are. I'm sorry if I left with that kind of yes. We are in it to win it. But you can't win if you don't run. And to be fair, we have a lot of people in here that would be interested in running. The seats where they live are not open right now. So the struggle that we are having, especially with the commissioners, because as you know, that's the level where the really important decisions get made, here at the county commission level. They're the 3 rural seats. And most of us tend to live in the 2 seats that aren't up, which are most of Southern Pines and Pinehurst, some of Aberdeen. But anyway, consider it. Talk to Paul, talk to Maurice, talk to any of those folks. They can walk you through. They did with Helen, they did with Lowell, and they can tell you what is required to run. And then the most important thing.
Not yet.
Almost.
That would be me. How many people here live in North County, up above Carthage and beyond? Okay.
See, not a person, yeah.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah.
If you know people who live up there, who live in House District 78, which is a little bubble of Moore County and part of Randolph County, we need a candidate up there to run for that House district, and the state party has made some concessions. They will pay the filing fee. They will help establish a website and do some other things that they don't generally do for candidates, but they're willing to step forward for this seat. If anybody knows anybody lives in that particular area, it's kind of hard to define, but it's a little blurb that hangs down there.
But if you know someone, get hold of.
Yeah.
Oh, Maurice.
How many people live in Aberdeen Pine Bluff?
Ooh.
We need someone to run for county commissioner.
we have three.
Aberdeen or Pine Bluff?
Aberdeen and Pine Bluff,
Well,
that's District 5.
either one.
Either one,
That's east and west. Aberdeen.
all three precincts.
You.
There you go.
Well, and there are, some of our commissioners are more vulnerable than others, so that would be a good one. Now,
One more.
one more, Donna, and
One more,
that's it.
and then I'm done.
Okay.
I didn't mean to be so vociferous today. Darlene and I were at the Cameron precinct meeting the other night, at Sarah's house. And one of our great supporters, Juanita Harbor, was there. We haven't seen her in a long time. She had a really bad accident some months ago. And she looks good. She still has probably get around, still doing some therapy. One of the things she's told me is she misses the Democrats. This was a real big part of her life, and I don't know how active she was in the women's group.
Oh, very
I figured she was. But if anybody has a moment, give her a phone call. If you have time, stop in and see her. She would love it. But she did look good, and we were really happy to see her. So I just wanted to pass that on.
Yeah. Yes. And she has already called with some names for our meeting this afternoon for the fundraiser. Now, the most important part of this meeting. We have a slate of officers that I will tell you about, and I'll ask them to stand. President is Paula Shelton, for president. Thank you. The co-vice presidents of the program, Jessica Wells and Jeanette Sabo. Those two are there. That's what they look like. Betty Barnett is not here. She is our current membership assistant treasurer. Paula took her place giving some information for us today. And Nina Cardwell is the membership assistant treasurer. Betty will move out of that position and into the recording secretary. Lynn will no longer do that. And this is our team. But as per our bylaws, we open the floor for nominations. So if there is anyone that is interested in one of these positions but was not nominated, now is the time to open the nominations. That's good because this is a great slate, but we have to do it. So here are our women, and what I would like to do is entertain a motion to accept this slate for the upcoming 2018-2019. Thank you, Algene. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Oh, lots of seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. New officers. That's great, Madam President-elect. And then now I would like to bring up Diane Anello, and Diane will introduce our speaker for today. Thank you.
Well, our speaker today is one of us. She is Region 6 Director, as Darlene told you, for the Democratic Women of North Carolina, and she also serves as a voting member of the State Executive Committee of the Democratic Party of North Carolina. She began her career in California, working on political campaigns and doing public relations, and some consulting for elected officials and state regulatory agencies. More recently, Catherine worked in the Washington, D.C. area, first for a disability rights advocacy group, and then as Executive Director for Communications at Gallaudet University, which I'm sure you all have heard of. It's a university for the deaf and hearing impaired. She currently serves as Director for Communications for Moore County Schools. She has a bachelor's degree in arts from Ohio State University and an MBA from Marymount University in Arlington, Virginia. This morning, Catherine will speak on the status of and the need for the Equal Rights Amendment. And we will take questions at the end of her presentation, not during, okay? Thank you. Catherine.
Good morning. If I had known we were going to be live streamed, I probably would have worn something different than jeans. But, thank you for having me. You know, when I was working in San Francisco, I was on the board of the National Women's Political Caucus in 1992. And that was the year of the woman. We called it the year of the woman. I was living in Nancy Pelosi's congressional district, and that year we elected both Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein on the same ticket. There was a special election for Feinstein's seat, and they both got in the same year. Here we are, 2018. As Darlene just mentioned, hopefully another year of the woman, but we still have so much far to go, really, when it comes to holding elective office. So I really hope you all are considering some of the options that were presented here today. Even just to put your name on the ballot means a lot. So, my water stashed down here. So one of the reasons why I'm presenting on this topic here today is because last year the state started an initiative of getting resolutions passed by local chapters in support of the ERA. In March of 2017, Nevada ratified the ERA. It was the first state to ratify the ERA in 40 years. Okay? That made it 36 states that had ratified the ERA, 2 left, right? So all of the states that have not ratified have started kicking up a lot of dust about this, North Carolina being one of them. The other initiative that's also been going on around the state is to have county commissioners pass resolutions in support of the ERA. So we would really like to get some women on the county commission, right, in order to support these types of initiatives. So I had brought that to the membership last year, and I remember getting questions about, don't we already have laws that ensure our equality? Do we really need the ERA? And that sort of thing. And I thought about it for a while, and I thought, you know what, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to bring to the membership just some real basic recap of what this is about, what we're trying to do, why it matters, so that when you're out talking to your family and your friends, and they're asking, you know, why do we need that ERA anyway? Aren't we all over that? You've got talking points where you can speak confidently enough as to why we need to keep pursuing the ratification of the ERA in North Carolina. So that's really the point of the presentation today. There's not a lot of new information here for folks, but it's more of a recap. Studies that have been done about the ERA, the vast majority of Americans believe it's already been passed. They don't really understand, and it's been dormant for so long, and I think it's just one of those things that we just need to kind of have a refresher of how we got here, and just a couple basic message points that you guys can walk away with and take away with. Also, in 2017, and as has happened hundreds of other times, there has been legislation introduced in the North Carolina General Assembly to ratify the ERA. Most recently last year it was introduced in the Rules Committee, and guess where it went? Nowhere. Okay. And that happens time and time and time again. So that is another reason why we're really kind of kicking up this effort. And then you've also probably noticed an uptick in some of the local media. We've had Paul Dunn write an editorial about the ERA. We've seen some letters to the editor and things like that. So we just really want to start keeping that momentum going and getting more publicity out there about that. Let's see. Okay. Is there a clicker for this?
Yes, we have a clicker.
Okay. I didn't really have time to do any pretty pictures or anything like that, so sorry about that.
Point it over here.
I don't know.
I think that's the right clicker. Can you use this one?
Yeah.
That's the mouse. There you go. There you go.
Oh, okay. Who knows the ERA by heart? Yeah, you probably, yeah, I knew you did. This is basically it, right? Doesn't seem too complicated, does it?
No.
Okay. So just as a reminder, you might really want to start reading that over and over and over again, just to get really familiar with the text of the ERA, so that when you're out answering questions, you can confidently speak to the language. But it shouldn't be too hard. So, but I have to admit, I haven't memorized it myself, so don't feel bad.
Next one.
All right. So just to give a review of amending the Constitution. Okay. To amend the Constitution of the United States requires passage by both branches of Congress, which happened, I think, in 1973. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. It also requires ratification by 2/3 of the state legislatures, 38 out of 50. As I mentioned, we're at 36 right now. And it does not require the signature of a governor or of the president. Few. Okay. Any questions about that before I move on? Yes?
Wasn't there a deadline that had to be extended?
Yes, and I'm going to address that in a second. The original deadline, I believe, was like in the later 70s, I think 1978. Then they extended it to about 1983, 82 or 83. In between, I might as well just do this now, in between 77 and 83, Phyllis Schlapp, how do you pronounce her last name? She picked up the Stop ERA campaign, and it just built this huge momentum, and a lot of fake news was spread about it and things like that, and they couldn't get another state to ratify it after that. So, okay. So the ERA was originally introduced in 1923. We might be able to get it passed before the 100-year mark, maybe. Oh, and here's the timeline. In 1972, it was passed by Congress, finally. It was introduced every year in Congress from 1923 on until 1972. 7-year deadline. We got 35 of the 38. We extended the deadline to 82, and we didn't ratify another state after 78. So this is the list of the states that have yet to ratify. Do you see a theme?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have heard rumblings that with the recent election in Virginia, because they've been able to really take over a large part of that part of the legislature there, that there has been some dust up there that might actually be one of the next states. Believe it or not, Arizona. People are looking at Arizona as a possibility because it's really turned purple lately. And Illinois, would be kind of a natural state you would look at. But those are the states left yet to ratify. So what activists have been doing the last year or so is, or for a long time I guess, is they've approached this with two different strategies. One is called the 3-state strategy. There is legal precedent to move beyond a deadline and have additional states ratify, and it has been upheld in court. The 27th Amendment, I believe, is the Madison Act. That took over 100 years to get amended to the Constitution. It passed several deadlines, and there is court precedent that if we do get the 38 states, it will probably go to court, but it's definitely, we have case precedent to move ahead with the final amendment. So there has been that strategy going on. Now it's a 2-state strategy because Nevada joined on. And like I said, the legal precedent with other amendments were the 14th, 15th, and the 19th. States also cannot rescind their ratifications. So although there might be some states out there right now who would like to take their ratification away, because of the 14th, 15th, and 19th Amendments, that's case precedent as well, that that cannot happen. So we are safe with that. The second strategy is called Fresh Start. And that is to just start all over with more contemporary language, moving that through Congress and going upon the whole process of ratification among the states. That hasn't picked up quite as much energy as the 3-state, 2-state strategy. I think that's probably where activists are going to stay for now, unless political winds shift or something like that, where this might become a more viable alternative. But a lot of people ask why. Why do we need the ERA? Okay. So the ERA has a direct impact on how women, cases that are really specific to women are addressed in our court system. There's different levels of scrutiny that the court will apply to different types of cases. Strict scrutiny, which is the highest level of scrutiny, applies to race, national origin, and religion. Intermediate scrutiny is what is applied toward gender discrimination, gender-based cases. That does not put us on par. If you have a racial discrimination case in front of the court and a sexual discrimination case in front of the court, they're not on par. They're going to be looked at differently in terms of the judicial lens. In 1976, when women's discrimination cases actually were finally introduced into our judicial system, before that we had nothing. So activists were just thrilled to get the intermediate at the time. But we've come a long way since then, and it's time for us to be moved up on par with these other protected classes. So, and I'll give you a couple of case examples to further explain this. The first one is the Hobby Lobby case. These are all recent, so not reaching back to the 80s on these. If that case had been examined by the justices through the strict scrutiny lens, it would have been on par in terms of other discrimination cases. Because it's an intermediate scrutiny lens, the consideration, they were not obligated to consider the discriminatory impact of their decision to stop covering contraception for women. And we all know what happened after that, right? Hobby Lobby won and set a precedent for employers across the nation to be able to deny access to contraceptives for women, so through their health plans. So it was pretty detrimental. Okay. Another area where this is not having the Equal Rights Amendment in place is that it leaves a legislative loophole in the Equal Pay Act and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. See, a lot of people will point to different pieces of legislation such as those two acts as saying, see, you've got equality. You've got equality. You don't need an Equal Rights Amendment. Well, in cases to fight discrimination, companies and other organizations have also often used this factor other than sex. So another way of putting that, they can discriminate against somebody in a way and say, oh, it's not because they're women, it's because of something else, okay? But it tends to universally impact women, right? So, and it's been used and won a number of times in paying women less than male colleagues. Am I flipping?
You can do it or I can do it. This is up to UPS.
Oh yeah, good. Okay, so there is case law with a UPS case. Also with a pregnant employee, they would not reassign her to a job where heavy lifting would not be required, like they often do with other employees that have injuries. You had drivers who would lose their licenses because they were convicted of drunk driving, that got reassigned to other positions, but yet they wouldn't reassign a pregnant woman to another position. They won that case based on the fact that that case had to be examined through intermediate scrutiny versus the higher level of scrutiny, which would have allowed for that to be considered. Did I just skip through one? Okay, sorry, this thing is not a lot of people will also point to the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment as applying to women and being able to cover women against discrimination cases. This is the Equal Protection Clause at the top. You'll notice the use of the word person. Okay. It's the first time the word person is introduced into the Constitution. But as our very own Antonin Scalia was quoted, it doesn't actually prohibit discrimination. And if you want to limit or address the issue of gender discrimination, you should be enacting laws through the legislature to do that. Well, guess what happens to laws when they're enacted through the legislature? They get overturned all the time. Okay, they get changed, overturned, shifted around. And that really kind of that's another reason why you need the Equal Rights Amendment to sort of set in stone the equality issues relating to women versus relying on the whims of the legislature, which can change at any time in the election, to ensure our rights and our ability to defend ourselves against discrimination, gender violence, and that sort of thing in the court system. And we all know who took Scalia's place, right? Okay. So we can probably count on that same philosophy to continue. All right. So in North Carolina, there is a ERA-NC Alliance. Okay. And it includes all of these organizations that you see here. The American Association of University Women, the DWMC, League of Women Voters. There's organizations out there called NC4ERA, Business and Professional Women, NOW, Women United. There's a specific group to the ERAs, Ratify ERA in North Carolina, and Women's Forum in North Carolina. So as you can see, there's a very large number of active groups involved in this effort. Okay, so I wanted to share with you all some resources. So these are links to websites, and you're happy to come up after and take a little screenshot of my sheet here. But I highly recommend that you visit these sites. It's pretty unbelievable what's been going on around the state in terms of media coverage and advocacy for the ERA. We're kind of here in our little bubble, and we get the pilot, and that's great, but and I love the pilot. But to kind of really see how much traction this is getting in media around the state is really helpful, as well as some of the meetings. There's a local organization I was going to announce they're having lunch this week. I know, it's okay. I'm almost done. There's a local organization here called ERA Action Team, and they're meeting this Thursday at Tavern on the Green for lunch. And it includes the League of Women Voters and folks from this organization. Do you want to add more?
Table on the Green.
Oh, I was thinking New York. Wow, wouldn't that be nice? PD Trick, I think, is closed now, too. But thank you, Tina. Is there anything else, Tina, I should mention about that group?
I went to the kickoff of this thing in Hendersonville, so 3 people went with me. Charlotte Gallagher, Dottie Greenwood, and myself from the League of Women Voters, because what we would like is to have this be a bipartisan or nonpartisan effort. This is about women, over half the population of the U.S.
Yeah.
It's not about Democratic women, so we want especially not to be short-circuited because, oh, well, that's a Democrat.
Right.
You know, so bear in mind when you're talking to your neighbors, your friends, you know, family about this, this is really something that's for everybody. And like editorial here was so wonderful that Mr. Dunn wrote, who is here today.
Yeah, I noticed it was right there. I saw.
So thank you, thank you, thank you. But the letter to the editor right after that shut that down as if, oh, you know, nobody's talking about it, and
Yeah.
women are already covered.
Yes.
As your talking point. So get prepared inside to push back when you hear that.
Yeah, that's very helpful, and that's such a good point. That's really why I kind of wanted to do this presentation today, just to give you just the baseline. I'm not an expert in the ERA. Someone kind of said I was. I went, oh my God, I don't think any questions on that. But I strongly encourage you to get involved in that respect. Check out some of these websites. There is, I believe the ERA-NC.org has also got a membership component to it. It's $35. So that kind of helps support some of their efforts there. There's a movie called Legalize Equality that I encourage people take a look at. There's a great book up here that I'm also recommending if you want to learn more about the more intricacies of the ERA, that's a great read for you. And I just want to mention one thing too about what Tina touched on about, you know, nonpartisan issue. When you look at Nevada and what happened in Nevada, why did Nevada ratify the ERA in 2017? Why? Does anybody know? It was the largest number of women ever elected to their state legislature. They make up something like 40% or something like that at the state legislature right now.
Wow.
And when they passed it through, even though the governor doesn't have to sign it, the governor, who's a Republican, was absolutely 100% in support. So when you're out, especially in this campaign season, and you're talking to, and you're seeing some of your state legislators out there, folks like that, you know, raise your hand. You know, do you support the ERA? I heard that was brought up at a recent meeting of some Republican office holders, and they came back with these same arguments that, no, you don't need it, you know, that sort of thing. That's your moment to educate them. You know, actually, I won't say, you know, Mr. So-and-so, these are the reasons why we need that. And just really start educating people as much as you can. So I really hope that what you come away with today are just a couple key points that you can sort of internalize a little bit, and that was my goal of doing this today. So thanks for bearing with me as I kind of shuffled around.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, she asked why sex and not gender, and whether the amendment would have any implications for the LGBTQ community. I don't know to both. Like I said, not an expert. I knew I was going to get a couple questions, but my understanding, I don't know about the first, about using sex versus gender. I don't know if that was just the times of when that was written. Probably. As far as LGBTQ community, I have read on some of the websites that there might be some application there, particularly if you do the fresh start strategy I talked about, when you rewrite, you know, the amendment, there might be room there to add something like that in there. But as I understand it right now, the amendment's the way it's standing, the way I showed you right now. So, yeah.
So is that the reason for a more contemporary version of the ERA?
It could be. I think a lot of activists would probably agree with that.
Yeah. My second question is, can we get your presentation put on the website so that we can?
It goes out with the minutes, and I think you guys do post it to the website, right, normally? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get that.
And there's Peggy Crawford back there kind of hiding. She's very active in this effort, so I'm really glad you came out to see me. Thanks for coming, Peggy. Okay.
Are the two approaches mutually exclusive, or can they be sort of
done concurrently, meaning pass the original one and then rewrite it and try to pass that one.
Well, getting an amendment to the Constitution is quite an undertaking. I suppose you could do another amendment down the road, but yeah, we've been at this about 100 years, right? So, yeah. Yes?
How long does it take the states to ratify?
Sorry?
How long does it take the states to ratify?
Well, the Nevada legislature did it right away. I think they were only in session a few months when they introduced the bill. So it's however fast they want to move it through. You let it die in committee or you get it out on the floor. It's one or the other. Yeah, Maurice?
So it's just a vote of the legislature, so it would just be the North Carolina House and the North Carolina Senate voting, and if they pass it out, then North Carolina's on board, correct?
Right.
Does it have to have a certain threshold percentage?
Majority. Just simple majority.
It's majority because North Carolina in the first HUD administration, the state Senate failed to vote to approve it by 3 votes.
Yeah, often you see that.
1976.
You've seen that often where it's passed by 1 vote here, 1 vote here. Yeah.
So it can keep getting reintroduced every year.
And it does.
Okay. Even if it gets voted down once, it can be reintroduced.
It never gets out of committee.
I see. But if it gets voted down, is that it?
Well, you can always reintroduce a new bill.
Okay.
That's why we can't rely on the legislature to protect women's rights, because a law could get overturned at any time. So having the permanence of having that amendment is really important.
I was just going to say that I recall at the state convention when the
Yeah.
presentation was done then, that they have a strategy in Raleigh where they introduced the bill specifically during either an odd or an even year, I think because of the specific type of committees that's meeting then. So like there is a strategy up in Raleigh where the people who are submitting the bill, they really know what they're doing, but yeah, it's just like you said, it doesn't
Yeah.
get out of the committee.
I mean, that's why you're seeing so much activity with media and stuff right now, because it's on the odd years. So the last time it was introduced into committee was 2017. I think they're going to try to go for it again in 2019. So that's why you're seeing kind of that groundswell right now supporting them in public opinion. Tina?
On the 22nd of March, the film Legalize Equality will be shown at one of the committee members' homes, Bonnie Matthews.
That's going to be the February 22nd. That was a typo.
Oh,
It'll be this 22nd, this Thursday. Yeah. Give the, do you have the contact information there?
Well, it's Bonnie Matthews.
Yeah, she's one of our members here. She's a member. I think I'm hearing you. You wanted to know if we had contact information?
Yeah.
If people wanted to go.
Yeah, I have an email.
Peggy?
I don't think we can invite people to Bonnie's house. League has a very active PRA action team, and we're screening the showing then. There are 2 different versions of Equal Means Equal films, and we're planning to show it to the public. I mean, the whole idea is that we're trying to figure out what's the best approach and what's the best strategy in Warren County. So stay tuned for that, but this is kind of a committee meeting preview.
Her addresses. Thanks, Peggy. Tina, did you have another event?
I'm the president of AAUW, and we are having a mini workshop on salary negotiation for the returning woman. So that whole part about equal really means equal in terms of the paycheck as well. It will take until 2075 or something at the rate we're going.
Yeah.
And it's already taken how long? So.
Yeah, I don't think I emphasize that point enough either, is if a woman is coming into a job and the justification for paying her less than her male colleagues is because she was paid less at her previous job, it just keeps you in that cycle. It doesn't really allow you to sort of break beyond that's a glass ceiling in pay, right? that just carries over and carries over wherever you go. And it's really following you around because you're a woman, not because you were paid less at the last job. And maybe you weren't paid enough at the last job either, and on and on and on. So I'm not sure I emphasized that as much as I should have. So I want to thanks Tina for bringing that up. Any other questions? Okay. Hey, thanks. It's been a great group.
I had to step out and talk with Sandy for a minute, but Elizabeth Manley and I have been talking about sort of what we talked about earlier, about sort of getting people to stand up and take ownership of the things they vote on. And one of the things that you can do is, you can do this in these precinct meetings, you can draft a resolution, and then you can go before the Pinehurst Village Council or the Southern Pines or the Board of Commissioners with your with your resolution, and put them on notice, make them vote on that resolution. And then when they run, say, here's a person who voted against the Equal Rights Amendment. So there are some local kinds of things that we can do to move this forward. Because if they pass it, then Raleigh has to pay attention to what's happening at the local level with these councils and these commissions passing it and then saying, well, we better pass it up here at the state level. Are there any other announcements of anything of interest to the broad group? We try not to get too focused on individual things, but if there's an event happening that you think this group should know about and support, this is the time to announce it. Of course.
Shouldn't have invited me today. Again, because of my position and my proclivity, this is a perfect example of change doesn't happen until we change the butts in the seats. So we got to get the vote out and got to make it happen locally for our representatives and our senators and our congresspeople in order to make these things happen for everybody.
One last
Off my soapbox.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. I will
I
start.
have a quick question
Yes.
for Paul.
Yes.
What is the party's local plan for getting millennials out to vote? Do we have a plan for getting them out to vote?
We're working on
A millennial over there.
We do have, what I'm working on right now is
Little
with the League of Women Voters, is there is a date, there will be a registration date at the high school. So for those students that will be 18 by the time of the general election or by the time of the primary. So there is a project right now that we're working in cooperation with, and then after that, we will have, because it is just going to be for one date with this group, this larger group situation, but we need to be looking at May, we need to be looking at September, we need to look at October. So that's where our group, the Democratic Party, is really going to be, that's where we're going to really take over, because we need a little more consistency right up in time until the election.
And,
yes, we do.
and one of the things that is a disadvantage in this area, as you well know, is it's more of a retirement area. So we have fewer of those folks, but we're beginning to see them. We have them in our midst now. So I'm sure that one of the things that's going to happen is there'll probably be a millennial chair to focus on that through the party when they get.
Plus, we're doing a lot more work with the kind of communications they use, electronic.
Yeah, more. I think that was social media.
Yeah, social media and stuff.
And I was going to say, I'm glad Paul brought that up, because Bill has been just amazing to really pump up our presence on social media, on Facebook, on our website, on Twitter. Now those really young ones are all into Snapchat and the other things, but yes, our presence is
on this too, so we know that people are coming on and then I think, just a second, Catherine, did you have something?
Can I speak on the bond?
If it's 15 seconds, okay.
On the May ballot, there will be 2 bonds. One is $103 million for schools, $20 million for the college. There will be a campaign kickoff on March 29th. So just be aware that that's going to be coming out and becoming more publicized. But just want to kind of put that on your radar. Thanks so much.
And thank you, and that was 15 seconds, and they are getting a headquarters downtown, I think. Aren't they right by the pilot building or something? Yes.
The date of the referendum, the date of the primary?
May 8th. May 8th. Hold on just a sec, because I think there was this woman back here, and then Helen, and then Lowell, okay?
I just wanted to mention, this isn't Democrat focused, but Habitat for Humanity. I'm participating in a Women Build project for a house in Southern Pines, so if anybody wants information.
Is that a habitat?
That's Habitat.
A habitat, great. See?
Well, talk to me, go to the Habitat for Humanity website. I'm being sponsored by somebody that I know, so I don't have anything.
Yeah, but that's great. It's all women doing it.
Yeah.
That's, Helen?
Just to reiterate about the bonds, if we don't pass the bonds, we're going to need new schools anyway. So you can either decide we should spend the money now at a cheaper interest rate on the bonds or pay for it later at a higher interest rate. But our schools are broken and crumbling, and we're going to need new schools. So in talking with friends about it, if they're like, oh, I don't think it's actually fiscally prudent to do this through a bond issuance instead of later through loans.
Great, thank you. Lowell?
I was just going to say, back to the millennial question, I was a high school teacher for 10 years, and so some of my students who were 16 10 years ago are 26 and 27 now. And I have a group that we've put together so far called Students for Simon, which is 31 kids right now. So they want to help Diane and her project of, getting kids registered and getting out the vote, and they're going to help with Helen, and they're gung-ho.
Right. That's good news for everybody. Yes.
Just a quick add-on about the bond issue. We're really more aware, I think, of the need for the primary school. The particulars about the college is it's for a nursing building, and some of us that are going to be needing good nurses. That's great. And it really is about bringing in the best training, too. So it's a really needed thing. It's not just
Like an add-on to, yes,
Right.
exactly. Great. Any other comments or questions or good? Oh, no, one more.
I just wanted to mention that the Given Bookshop in the village is going to have an Instagram class tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. So I wanted to attend that.
For those of us who haven't used it or
Yeah, I'm not going back
need
there.
some refreshing. Great, thank you. And one more.